Imagine this. You're a woman in Delhi. It's 9:30 p.m. You are leaving your office. Your mind is racing. Should I take the metro or a cab directly? The cab will be almost 5 times more expensive. Will it be safe to walk to the metro station? Or should I take an auto? But if I take the metro, it'll be pretty late by the time I reach, and the walk home from the metro station is quite scary also. Should I just ask Dad to come pick me up? This isn't an exception. Every day, you make a million calculations trying to balance safety, money, and time, just to get yourself from one place to another. The man sitting 2 desks away from you, his life doesn't seem as complicated. That's what it means to be a woman in an Indian city. Because our cities aren't designed for women. But when we asked what would happen if they were, we found something very interesting. I'm Lavanya, and in this episode of The Climate Brief, I'm going to tell you about the link between urban mobility, women's safety, and climate change. Let's start with something that should be obvious, but most city planning ignores. Women move through cities very differently from men. For starters, 53% of women in urban India do not step outside their homes, not even once on a given day. And for the women who do, their journeys look nothing like the men's. 84% of trips by women in urban India are via public transport, informal modes, walking, cycling. For men, that number is 71%. Women also walk more. About 45% of women walk to work. Only 27% of men do. Conversely, around the world, more men tend to own and drive cars as compared to women. Then let's come to what women do when they actually do go out. Even when employed, women still carry the majority of caregiving and domestic work. The 2024 Time Use survey found that women spend 140 minutes a day on caregiving. Men, 74 minutes, nearly half. Because of this, women don't just go from home to work and back. They do something called trip chaining, combining multiple short trips into one long loop. Drop a child to school, buy groceries, get that broken blender fixed, head to work, pick up that India map your child needs on the way back, all in one continuous chain. This means women's trips tend to be made of shorter legs. They often travel with dependents and in non-peak hours. Trip chaining also makes travel more expensive. Multiple modes, multiple single fare tickets. And this results in something strange. Shorter trips, but higher costs. A World Bank report shows that women's trips in India were almost 38% shorter than men's. But men's average travel costs were 35% less. And it isn't just a personal burden. It's an economic hurdle, especially for low-income women, limiting access to jobs, healthcare, education, and even a social life. And because they travel in non-peak hours, when the frequency of buses and trains is lower, they have to wait more. A study by ITDP and GIZ found that 32% of women commuters cite long waiting times and journey times as their biggest barrier. 23% cite lack of route and schedule information. And it's not just about longer waiting times or higher cost of travel. The biggest issue is safety. 79% of women in Indian cities, that is 8 in 10, have faced harassment or violence in public spaces. So taking public transport or walking is not always a choice. Sometimes it's a constraint. Women who can afford alternatives exit public transport often the moment they can. Women who can't, they pay the price. There is a whopping 52% of women who have turned down a job or an educational opportunity because the commute felt unsafe. Is it any wonder that more than 53% of women don't even step out? Women pay for the simple act of stepping out. In terms of higher costs, more time, less safety, and taking a hit on their mental health. Bottom line, for women to move through a city is like being left-handed in a world full of right-handed scissors. Everything technically works, just never quite right for you. But can this issue even be resolved? And more importantly, why should everyone care? So what would cities look like if we prioritized how women actually move? It turns out it comes down to just 3 things. Solution 1, better public transport infrastructure. This has 4 key legs. Number 1, more public transport. More buses, more routes, more metro lines, suburban rail in bigger cities. Number 2, there is a need for better last mile connectivity, which is often the weakest link. What does this look like? Minibuses on smaller routes, shared autos, footpaths that don't feel like a hurdle course, and good lighting that makes the last mile safer to get through. A good example of this is how in 2025, the GCC in Chennai redesigned 62 bus shelters specifically on high traffic routes used by women with lighting and CCTVs. Number 3, making transport more affordable for women. This could be through schemes such as the one in Tamil Nadu that made buses free for women in 2021. Ridership there jumped from 40% to 61% in just 9 months. Women who couldn't afford to travel began stepping out for work, for education, for leisure, for healthcare appointments, to simply exist. Then Karnataka launched the Shakti scheme with free transport for women. Delhi introduced the pink ticket, and today over 5 states have some version of free fares for women. And finally, number 4. Better frequency in off-peak hours. Want to know what would happen if we did all of this? Let's take a quick trip to Vienna. The city decided to redesign public transport around how women move. What this meant was adding routes to schools and markets, improving safety, and ensuring buses ran outside of the peak hours. And what did they find? Car use dropped from 40% in 1993 to 27% by 2014. Transport emissions fell 15% over the decade. Solution 2. More walkable cities. Remember our earlier data? 45% of women walk to work compared to 27% of men. So when you improve that walking infrastructure, you give women something they have long been denied: the freedom to move on their own terms. A city designed for women is one where you can walk easily and freely, not with pepper spray or keys between your fingers. Walking has way more benefits than just helping your health. It's a zero-emission mode of transport. It reduces noise and it improves air quality. Win, win, and win situation. But India isn't built for that. Broken footpaths, poor lighting, no shade, and two-wheelers coming onto the footpaths. Let's take you to Barcelona, where super blocks are solving all these problems. They are a 3x3 grid of city blocks where interior streets were closed to cars and returned to pedestrians, cyclists, children, the elderly. They added seating, some greenery, play areas, and connected everything to strong public transport. In India, Chandigarh Sector 17 shows what pedestrian-friendly planning looks like, with tree-lined sidewalks, pedestrian zones, and a commercial core built for people, not cars. Solution 3. The 15-minute city. What if you lived in a place where everything you needed, schools, clinics, grocery stores, and more, were all accessible within 15 minutes? No more long commutes, no more exhausting trip chaining across the city. For women, this means saving time and money, which they can use to access better opportunities. And of course, for the climate, it means fewer vehicle kilometers traveled and fewer emissions. Paris made this the centerpiece of its 2020 vision, ensuring essentials were accessible within 15 minutes, on foot or by bicycle, backed by vehicle restrictions and strong public transport. And we are happy to say that India is moving in that direction too. Take Jaipur. Its layout allows essential amenities to be reached within a 15-minute radius from residential areas. Mixed land use means ground floors of residential buildings are allocated for commercial purposes. So the solution isn't all too complex. It simply comes down to better planning, one that doesn't ignore 50% of our population. You might be thinking, Lavanya, this is all great, but what does any of this have to do with the climate? Let me tell you, once we have better public transport infrastructure, it helps everyone, not just women. And every person on a bus or a metro is one fewer car on the road. It's as simple as that. More walkable streets means more trips made by walking instead of motorized transport. And that means fewer emissions. In Chennai, ITDP found that between 9% and 29% of people walking on improved footpaths would have used private motorized transports if the footpaths had not been upgraded. Because of these improvements, between 4,200 and 12,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions are prevented annually. That's the equivalent of taking 1,000 to 2,900 cars off the road for 1 year. All of this simply because of better footpaths. And 15-minute neighborhoods mean shorter trips, which could be done without motorized transport in the first place, or will have lesser vehicle kilometers even if done in cars. Women are already the most sustainable commuters we have. They walk more, use public transport more, rely less on private vehicles. Their behavior is already the low-carbon future that we want. And this is more relevant today than ever before. Indian cities are rapidly urbanizing and already at the epicenter of climate risk. Urban areas account for nearly 16.2% global emissions. In India, road transport accounts for about 12% of national emissions. So the real question is, how do we help people move better within our cities? And as we have learned, when we design cities for women, we don't just make them safer. We make them fairer. We make them more accessible. We make them economically stronger. In fact, we make them better for everyone. And as a bonus, we make them better for the climate. So designing cities for women isn't a niche issue. It's climate policy. It's economic policy. It's urban policy. I'm your host Lavanya, and if this episode made you think about the invisible link between women's mobility, safety, and the climate crisis, subscribe for more stories.